So Wonka, we gotta talk about this one, guys, because listen, is this a new Christmas time classic? Let's talk about it. With dreams of opening a shop in a city renowned for its chocolate, a young and poor Willy Wonka discovers that the industry is run by a cartel of greedy chocolatiers. This is starring Timothée Chalamet as the title character Wonka, Olivia Colman as Mrs. Scrubbit, Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa, Sally Hawkins, Patterson Joseph, Keegan-Michael Key, Rowan Atkinson, Simon Farnaby, Kala Lane, and more, guys. And listen, I had a really good time with Wonka. I think it's fun. I think it's whimsical. I think this feels like something different for Timothée Chalamet, and I liked it. While it took me a moment to get adjusted, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in this review, I really enjoyed his performance as Wonka. I thought he had this magic about him that just made you corral behind his goal of opening this chocolate shop. And you know, I had to really remove the Gene Wilder version from my mind, because honestly it's so easy to associate with the original Willy Wonka. And I don't really love the Johnny Depp version, but I do think Timothée Chalamet brings his own energy to this role, and Mr. Paul King was the choice of director for this one. He really brings that wholesome energy into this, and like I said, Timothée, great new role for him that I really enjoyed. The rest of the cast is great as well. Listen, Olivia Colman is grumpy, y'all. Literally channels this like grumpy, mean, angry woman who just tricks Wonka into staying at her hotel, but it actually ends up being he has to work for her under this contract. And so her and these three chocolatiers, y'all, are like the villains of the movie, and they feel like these kooky Christmas movie villains that just work. It's cheesy, it's goofy, but it works for this type of movie. And I really like what they did with the villains here, and that they have this chocolate cartel that's running the town. I think that's such a fun villain trio that they have going on, along with Mrs. Scrubbit. And Mrs. Scrubbit, y'all, there's a guy that works for her, and man, they have a little, I'm not gonna spoil, but there's a glow up that happens. That's all I'm gonna say. But it's a fun, whimsical time. I really like the young woman who played Noodle. Her name was Kala Lane. I think she had so much joy and passion that really oozed on screen. I think she had lost so much hope as that character of Noodle, but then once you saw the development of that character, it just really was good. And I thought Kala Lane was very good in this role. I want to see her get some more roles. I hope this is just the beginning of her having a Hollywood career. I thought she was so charming and fun, and I thought she paired well with Timothée Chalamet. So I really liked that actress and that character of Noodle. I think she's kind of like the audience character, like, convince me of this magic first off, like, well, convince me. And she was the first one, and then once he convinced her, he convinced the rest of the workers of Mrs. Scrubbit's little operation going on. But I think that it is a fun, good time, guys. I really had a lot of fun. It felt magical, it felt whimsical. There's something that goes on with Keegan-Michael Key's character, and he plays like a cop of the town, and the cartel's like paying him through chocolate. And I think there's weirdness going on with like the fat suit, and it can come off to some as like fat jokes. I think personally, it just was a physical manifestation of this dirty cop working with the cartel, but I think for some, it can rub them the wrong way, and I completely understand the criticism that maybe the fat jokes are awkward here. For me personally, I didn't really feel any offense to that. Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa, you guys. Holy crap. He was so funny and cynical and grumpy, but just like the other characters in this movie, Wonka just uplifts and brings them over to his side and into his cause. And so wholesomeness wins again. Sally Hawkins, so wholesome in her small role in this movie. I really enjoyed it, but let's talk about some things that weren't quite as good and quite as magical. I think about the first 20 minutes, I needed convincing. I was kind of feeling like it might end up being a lengthy SNL skit. I was like, okay, what are we gonna do here? I'm not sure this is going to be paced well, and I don't know if the comedy is gonna come off cheesy. Some of it did, but it really worked. But the first about 20 minutes, had to hook me in. And there's a few lulls throughout the movie where things kind of fizzle down. And it's like, all right, what do we do now? That's to be expected with a lot of these movies. It just kind of fizzles out sometimes, but it comes right back very quickly. The movie as a whole is really fun, really charming, magical, wholesome. The songs are really good. The songs are so whimsical and fun. But I think sometimes it tries a little too hard with the wholesomeness. I think sometimes it can get a little lost trying to be like Paddington, whereas the first two Paddington movies are so naturally positive, optimistic, and wholesome. And I think it tried to emulate that energy, of course, with Paul King, who directed the Paddington movies. That's what you're gonna get. But I think sometimes it tried a little hard to capture that same feeling of Paddington, and sometimes I was like, okay, let's kind of run on our own. But the cinematography was excellent. I thought there were some fun, really good shots. The lighting and color, the pinks and the oranges and the pastel-like colors, the blues, and it just really flowed so wonderfully together on the technicals. Guys, Wonka, fun, whimsical, a good time, and is it an instant Christmas classic? I think so, guys. I think for those who enjoy it, this will be one you'll rewatch on Christmas, and I think the general audience may end up really enjoying Wonka. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, guys, and if I had to give a rating to Wonka, listen, I'm going with a strong 8.5 out of 10. It's like I said, sometimes it tries a little too hard to play that wholesome card. It tries maybe just a little too much to be Paddington 1 and 2. There's some lulls in the story, and the first about 20 minutes had to hook me in. But once I was in, I was in. It was a fun ride, magical and whimsical all throughout. I love Timothée Chalamet's performance here. I really liked the young actress who played Noodle, Keegan-Michael Key, Olivia Colman, Hugh Grant, Mr. Bean. I mean, there's just some great performances here. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you have seen Wonka, what do you think? Is it an instant Christmas classic? Let me know. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button down below, y'all. And we'll see you next time on Geekly Goods.